Hello, everyone. So today we want to go over graduation requirements again because there are a few things that have changed in the last year, and we want to make sure that everybody understands what is required, the help that they can get to those requirements, and just in general, an overview of all the things that are going to happen in the next few years before you graduate. So this is a reminder slide that we went over last year, and it shows you all of the credits that you need to graduate. And if you see the 2 stars at the top, it also shows you the 2 other graduation requirements that are required by the state and Manheim Township. So on top of the 22 credits that you need to graduate, you also need to complete a career readiness portfolio, most of that being done in your advisory period, some of it being done in freshman academy last year. And then you also need to be proficient on your Keystone exams or an alternate pathway. And we will go over that in a little bit. Also looking at the screen, you can see the requirements of 4 English, 4 social studies, so those you will take every year, 3 credits of a science, one of those having to be biology, 3 credits of math, one of that having to be Algebra 1, a 1 credit of arts and humanities. Most of you will have that with a language or art or music or something along those lines. Half a credit of health, which is either 11th or 12th grade. 1.5 credits or 3 classes of PE. One of those you have to take in person. A half credit of financial literacy, which is again 11th or 12th grade. And then a STEM requirement, which is either an additional math, science, or any kind of tech ed offering or food science. And then 3.5 general electives. Act 158 is the graduation pathways that I mentioned earlier, and that is either proficiency on Keystone exams or an alternate pathway, which I will get into the next few slides. Students must take the Keystone exams at some point, even if you don't believe you're a good test taker or you're just not someone that wants to take the Keystones. It is a requirement that all students must take the Keystone at some point. So the pathways would include proficiency in your Keystone, a composite score, or a few alternate assignments or projects that you can do that we will get into. So pathway 1, there are 5 pathways as I stated. Pathway 1 is scoring proficient or advanced on all 3 of the algebra, biology, and literature Keystone exams. The other way you can get a pathway through the Keystones is getting a composite score. So that means if all 3 scores add up to 4,452 or greater, you can get your pathway by hitting that score. You are not allowed to score a below basic on any of those 3 tests, though, to get the composite score. So if you are a person that is really good in your STEM, like your science or your algebra, but you're not so good in literature, you can still not get a proficient in literature and get proficient or advanced in algebra and bio. And as long as you hit that 4,452, you will meet your pathway for graduation. The next few pathways are a little bit more detailed. So you can see here pathway 3 is another set of scores. So the ASVAB, which is something we're going to get into later. If you score a 31 or above, you meet your pathway. Also some standardized testing here. So the ACT, the PSAT, and the SAT, you can get a minimum score and pass. Please keep in mind that the PSAT is normally for students in 10th or 11th grade, 11th being the most convenient and the best time to take the test because you're more ready for that and the subjects that are in it. The SAT and the ACT are 11th and 12th grade. Most students starting to take them in either the fall or spring of 11th grade. You can also score in any content area an AP exam a score of 3 and an IB exam a score of 4. The ACT work keys is something that you can work with a counseling office on if you participate in that. Another option here that some of our students have done is completing a dual enrollment course, so in the content area. So that would be in English, biology, or in algebra. If you have a content course in dual enrollment, you can get your pathway. You can also do a pre-apprenticeship program that is approved for the school, and we do have a few of options for that. So you can talk to the counseling office with that. And the other way that a few students have gotten their pathways this year is to get accepted into a 4-year school and eligibility for college level coursework, meaning you must be able to go in and take college level classes. Pathway 4 is the CTC route, as we call it. So having an industry recognized credential that can also be done outside of CTC, but it does involve a little bit of work, but we can work with you on that. Or you can prove success at the CTC in either junior year or senior year. These students that are at CTC must receive at least a 70% to be considered approved, or that you are ready, and proving that you are able to succeed in that pathway. So please keep that in mind, that if you are a CTC student, you must earn at least a 70%. Finally, pathway 5 is probably the most involved pathway, but it also gives students the most options as well. So you have to have 3 pieces of evidence within these 2 boxes. You have to have at least one in the box on the left. So getting a silver level if you're doing work keys, if you have any type of AP or IB exam score of a 3, so not just in the content level. You also can do a completion of a dual enrollment course in any content area, not just that algebra, biology, or literature. An industry recognized credential, or acceptance into an other than 4-year institution. So that would be a community college or a technical school that you may only need 2 years of schooling to go to. So at least one of those in that box. And then on the right-hand side, you can't have more than 2 of these options. So getting proficient or advanced on any of the Keystone exams. So what that means is you would get proficient on one of the 3 and maybe basic or below basic on another or the other 2, and you don't hit that composite score. You also can do a service learning project or community service. That would be 10 hours that you would have to get for that. You can get a letter guaranteeing full-time employment or military enlistment. So if you are a student that is already working and you're working quite a few hours and you know you're going into that job after school, you can get a letter from your employer or from the officer that you've been working with during the school year to enlist. You can complete an internship, an externship, or a co-op program, and we do offer co-op for seniors that you can do either for 10 or 15 hours. It's 1 or 2 credits, so that would count your senior year. Externship opportunities, we have a few of those also, so you can talk to your school counselor about that. The last one is compliance with NCAA Division II requirements, meaning that you have taken classes that would allow you to go into Division II schools for the NCAA. A lot of this is, a lot of information, but your counselor is here to help you. So if you have any questions, that's what you can come to the counseling office for. There are a few things that you should be doing at this point in time to prepare yourself for graduation and post-secondary either coursework or employment. So you can see on this page, we have it on your Class of Schoology page, a breakdown of what students should be doing in each grade. And in 9th grade, we talked about it in your presentation last year, but you can also see here in 10th grade that, you should consider taking the PSATs, applying to CTC, which we're talking about later. The ASVAB we'll talk about later. Make sure you are checking your graduation requirements so you know what you need to take in the next few years. Familiarizing yourself with any resources, staying informed, and just in general, trying to create a goal and making sure you are working towards that goal. Navigating your path in high school can be difficult and can be very overwhelming, and we are all aware of that, whether that be your teachers or your counselors or the administrators. We all know that it can be tough. So that's why we're here to help. And these are the 4 things that we recommend you doing. First of all, meeting with your school counselor. We want to make sure that you're meeting with counselors at least once a year to make sure that you are on the right path, double checking your graduation requirements, going over what your pathway may be, making sure your career readiness portfolio is up to date, and just in general, making sure that you are okay. Like I said, we know that it is hard. We want to make sure that we are doing everything we can to make sure you are successful. The other thing you should be doing is consulting the EPG or the Educational Planning Guide. That has everything you could possibly need when it comes to scheduling or taking classes, CTC, early enrollment, all of that. Please make sure you are reading it. It is a long document. Most of it, though, is descriptions of classes. So if you are just looking for scheduling rules or CTC interests or just availability of resources, that is the first, 20 or so pages. After that, we're getting into the nitty-gritty of each class. So if you're just looking for scheduling rules, you can just look at the first few pages. There are also resources available everywhere to explore post-secondary options. So if you look on Schoology, if you come down to the counseling office, if you're talking to your teachers, there are a lot of field trips. A lot of the teachers bring in local businesses or just people to talk about their careers. Make sure you are taking advantage of everything that you can. Listen to the announcements, look at the Schoology posts. Those are where your opportunities are. And finally, try out some of the things we have here. We offer so many different classes and so many different opportunities, whether that be job shadowing or internships or anything. Please make sure you are trying out the topics that come up in your interests and abilities. So in advisory, you're going to do a few things that will say, your interests lead to this career. Try out those things just to see if you would like them, because you never know what it's going to be like until you try them. When it comes to advisory and your career readiness portfolio, this is where you are going to end up in advisory completing that graduation project that is your CRP or career readiness portfolio. They need to be uploaded into Schoology and saved to your career readiness Schoology portfolio. So anytime you are uploading anything in advisory, you must make sure that after you upload it, you click the little briefcase button next to the submission. That makes sure it goes into your portfolio. That is how we, as the counseling office, your advisory teachers, and the state that will come in and audit us are able to see that we are meeting the requirements for not only our graduation project, but also the state requirements. If you are a new student this year and you haven't been here in years past, you are not responsible for any artifacts that we did in the years you were not here. You are only responsible for artifacts from this point forward. The other thing you want to keep in mind, we want you to know, is this is always, advisory in the CRP is always changing. We are always trying to make sure that is meeting your needs. So if you have any feedback that you think that there's something that we should be adding or changing, please let us know. Talk to your advisory teacher, talk to your counselor. Anything that we can do to make this more worthwhile for you, we want to know. Scheduling with your school counselor is something that I've brought up a few times here. So if you don't know how to schedule with your counselor, or you don't know who your counselor is, you can see on this page, there is a whole list of the counselors. There are 7 counselors, 6 of them working with students broken down by alphabet. And then we have Mrs. Ziegler, who is our college and career counselor. You can schedule with any of us by going to your class of page and then clicking MTHS Counseling Office Forms and Links, and there will be a link to all of our calendars. If you click on the link next to your counselor's calendar, it will bring up appointments that are available. Please make sure you are trying to schedule either before school, after school, a study hall, or during your lunch, so you're not missing any important information. The EPG that I spoke about earlier can also be found online. It has all of the information as far as graduation requirements, policies, and deadlines. That is important. Make sure you know all scheduling policies and deadlines. It also talks about dual enrollment, early graduation, CTC, and other important information. You can see on the page here that if you go to the high school, the educational planning guide can be found there, and there are clickable links to go to each section. These are some opportunities that we have that are upcoming that can help you with all of this information I just described. On December 15th, if you are interested in joining the IB program, that is when the IB application is due. December 23rd, all CTC applications are due for the 2023-2024 school year. So next school year, whether you are going to be a junior or a senior, all applications must be in by December 23rd. The instructions for how to apply to CTC can be found on Schoology. Make sure you are checking Schoology in your class of 2025 page, because that is where we post all of this information. There is also an enrichment and opportunities group on Schoology. The access code can be found on your screen. This is where we will post internships, jobs, college visits, all of those upcoming opportunities that are extra can be found on that page as well. The resources that you can explore on your class of 2025 page are almost endless because we have everything in there for college and career planning. So please make sure you are checking that out. And here's just an example of what you can see. You can also find how to use SCORE on there, which is going to be where you apply to colleges and you do some of your career searching, application processes, all of that. Coming up, we're going to talk about the ASVAB. This is going to be offered to all sophomores on December 12th and 13th this year. And we're going to go into a little bit more details in the next few slides. The ASVAB is the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. It is not something that you have to take, meaning that you have to go into the armed services. It is actually a career exploration program, and it will tell you where your skills lie, so you can start exploring more interests and more skills based off of these results. As I just mentioned, all 10th grade students will be taking this test on December 12th or 13th. If you remember from the beginning of this presentation, I talked about the pathways and that the ASVAB is a pathway for graduation. So, if you are a student who does not believe they are going to do well on the Keystone, this is your opportunity to take this seriously and get your pathway even before taking most of your Keystone exams. The ASVAB will will measure your skills and your interests to give you careers that they believe you will be successful in. And now we're going to watch just a quick video on what the ASVAB is. To make sure that you are ready to take the ASVAB, we have posted some resources on the Class of 2025 page. So if you go to that page, under the College and Career Information folder, you will see a link. It will take you to some practice tests, some more information, and anything that you can that you need to prepare yourself for this test. You don't need to study a lot for it, but it would be beneficial to you to try and take some of the practice tests so you know what you're in for when it comes to these questions, because they are a little different. It is not like you're taking a normal standardized test. This is really to test your skills and your interests. So there's going to be some fun questions in there, some different questions, like maybe talking about cars or something along those lines. So just to get yourself familiar with what you're going to be seeing, it would be really beneficial for you to go to these resources. You will get your results back, and we will have a session in the near future, once we have the results, on how to interpret your scores. The one thing I want you to see here is you can see that each of these scores, it's on a different scale. So each score is broken down, based on your verbal, your math, your mathematics knowledge, all of that. So you can really see where your skills lie. The important score that we're looking for pathways, though, is down here on the bottom left. So your AFQT score, as long as this is a 31 or above, you meet your pathway. There are other resources here too that you can start preparing yourself for the exam. One of those being the March to Success. You can also go to the different websites that we have listed. You can also just Google, free ASVAB resources, whatever you need to do to help prepare yourself and feel better. The QR code on the top right of your screen will take you to a free ASVAB practice test. A few of the counselors actually did this, and it was fun, and it made me really see what the test is. So I would highly recommend taking that, or even just doing, half of it to see what you're in for next week. The final thing we want you to remember is to try your best on everything, and that there are options. So you make sure you're trying your best on everything that you do. And you know that even if you don't don't score high enough, or you don't perform as you think you are, there are options out there for you, and we are here to help. So please make sure you are talking to us and you're talking to your teachers to make sure that we are picking the best pathway for you to succeed. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to any of us. Thank you very much.